Wow. And so you said they gave you some tickets. I've heard some outrageous numbers. Like how much are they fining people for having Airbnbs?
Well, I think it varies, but I know it varies. But so at the end of the day, I paid them $1,000 plus, and I owe them probably $10,000 more. Jeez. So I know some other people who owe $10,000 and $15,000 and $30,000, and then some people I do know someone else who told me, and I haven't seen it to verify it myself, but I think she owes almost $100,000. So what happens is once they come in, they treat you like you're a hotel. So if you don't have proper sprinkler system, proper fire extinguishers, if you have locks on interior doors, a whole host of things, they'll write a ticket for any of that.
Welcome to Live, Let, Thrive, a podcast about the Airbnb life, the share economy, and everything in between. Here are your hosts, Micah and Steve.
Hello.
And welcome back to another exciting episode
of Live,
Let,
Thrive.
Yeah, and today was episode 78, and today we got a special guest coming all the way from New York. We have Joy Williams with the Home Sharing Association of America, the Vice President. How you doing, Joy?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Definitely. Thanks for coming on, because I know you're probably busy, especially with everything that's going on in New York. Matter of fact, because we just seen in the news, because we're in Texas, and we just seen in the news that you guys actually had a big victory. So how is that coming along?
So we did have a big victory. But it's a temporary victory. So it is a temporary injunction against the law that the city council passed, which they basically wanted to take all of our information, those people who are using Airbnb or any other home sharing platform, and then give it to the Office of Special Enforcement, which is basically law enforcement, so the police of the Airbnb world. So the judge said that this was a violation of Fourth Amendment rights for the companies. So that was great that he's not going to let this law go into effect and when it was scheduled to go into effect in February, and that the trial can commence. So we don't know what the city's going to do, but we're prepared to continue to fight.
Wow, that's awesome. I mean, at least because the city that we have a city down here called Grapevine, and they just kind of had the same thing. They banned Airbnb, and what they did was they pretty much got an injunction against the city and kind of puts a temporary, kind of like I guess you can consider it a grace period, right, if you will. So you can continue to do it, I guess, and without any fines or penalties. So, and I noticed, and one thing I really stuck out to me about your group was you guys are home sharing. In your association, do you guys distinct yourselves from like people who, hey, they have a house over here and they Airbnb that, or you guys stick it only to people that home share, like people that live in their property?
So we don't make that distinction really, because really the problem with making that distinction is to assume that we agree with some part of the law, and we don't, and then to say that we're defining what kind of property you have. So most of us are sharing our homes and live in them, but that there's no distinction for that in the law. So the current law says that anybody, whether you live in the house or not, if you're renting out an entire unit, and I own a 3-family, if I'm renting out the entire unit 2 or 3, then it's illegal. So we're not judging that because we think the law is wrong and that we need to fight the law, right? So we include everybody. We include people who don't really care for people who use Airbnb, and that would include like people who do bread and breakfast, the more traditional ones in the city. There's no law that permits them to do that, but they like to make a distinction for themselves. They like to think of themselves differently, and they don't want to combine themselves with us. They think there's some benefit to it, and I don't see it, but we would welcome them if they want to participate with us too. So.
Okay. Wow. So was it like during this whole home sharing, while people were doing Airbnb, because one of the problems we had here in Texas was the cities were actually, the city of Arlington in particular, which is where the Dallas Cowboys play. they were actually collecting taxes from the hosts, and then they were trying to put pretty much stipulations on it. So, but they had to kind of overturn it because they were collecting tax money. Was the city of New York or any of the boroughs in New York, were they collecting tax money from any of the hosts? Or
So no, and not in any of the boroughs they weren't collecting taxes because I think they recognize that would be a problem. But in some of the counties in upstate New York and upstate New York, they are collecting taxes. So, and some of those counties have made agreements with Airbnb. So it depends on where you live, specifically how this is how they look at it, and it's different in every county.
Wow. Okay. Because I know you guys are particularly in New York. Do you guys plan on expanding to other states? Like have a HSAA chapter in New York, not New York, but in Texas or Washington State or something like that?
Yeah, so we plan to expand wherever anybody needs the support. So we have talked to other people and tried to help them out when they request from us. So, and there are a couple of other organizations throughout the country, I think, that are similar. But yeah, we definitely want to expand, and we feel that even if not under our banner, that we need to be a more organized force nationally, because that's what the hotel industry is doing, and how they're, getting information out that is really disinformation, and we want people to be informed no matter where they are. Because I think as a collective, we have more power and just more information, and then we can figure out what it is we're fighting. I think in New York, it's hard for people to really know what's happening, and the city's not helping us in that regard.
So you think, this is Steve, by the way. How you doing, Joy?
Good, Steve. How are you?
Pretty good. Sipping on a Corona currently. Anyways, a question. Do you think that the city council is in the pockets of the hotel industry?
Definitely. Well, we know they are, and we know largely that they are receiving money from the city, from the hotel lobby. That is public information, so I'm not speaking out of turn on that. When this law came up to be passed, the city council knew in advance, because the New York affiliate of the ACLU said that this is a violation of Fourth Amendment rights, among other things. So they knew that. But when they came to pass it, not one person spoke up against it in any form. So really how the laws get passed, the physical day when they pass them, the actual day when they pass them in the chamber, they have a number of laws that they pass. So each person will affirm that they're going to pass all of these things. So they're not putting up anything that they think is not going to pass. So, some people will say, I have an issue with this, I have an issue with that. Even though I have an issue with this law, we're going to pass it. I'm going to vote for it. Or they'll say that I'm going to vote against it. But really, what happened that day was not a single person in that chamber said anything against this law. So clearly, this is a problem to us, because this is our new speaker, Corey Johnson's initiative. He came out highly against Airbnb when he started, and he got Carolina Rivera to introduce this bill. So those are the people that were standing on the side of the bill, and the people feel that they have to support that. Otherwise, whatever they're due for the rest of the session won't be heard. So there's a problem in our structure, but a problem in this bill, and they are all, not all, but the majority of the people in the city council to get money from the hotel lobby. So they are definitely in their pocket.
Wow,
that's crazy.
It really is, and I'm happy you keep bringing up the Fourth Amendment. So it sounds like pretty much the city of New York had people actually going to people's houses and walking in and inspecting them.
Well, so there are two things. So the city has been doing that. So, and I'll tell you about me. But the law itself says that they want so much information. They want our names, addresses, our what kind of units we have, and we're fine with that. But they also want things on how much money we're making. They want a whole, like, where this money is going, the accounts that this money is going to. So they want more information that is reasonable. So the other fact that the New York chapter that ACLU talked about was that the data supplier or the company that the Office of Special Enforcement used to aggregate this information is the same that's used by ICE and the CIA. So there's no protections or provisions to protect our data and our information. And we live in a country, and some people forget this, that you just don't give over your space, your right to search and seizure, just because you have some wild complaint. You need specific subpoena ability, and there needs to be some evidence of a crime. So innocent people should be able to have the private enjoyment of their homes and their data, and this doesn't do that. So, but what the city has been doing before, and they still do, is they send out people from the Office of Special Enforcement. There'll be a person from the Office of Special Enforcement, a person from the building department, a person from the fire department, and a police officer. And when they come to the door without a warrant, they will knock. If they can get in, they will get in. If a door is open or if they can open a door, they will come in. They will come without a warrant. They've done this time and time again. They came up to my door. They've been to my house 3 times. And they will convince people that they need to let them in. And they're not advising people of they have a right to privacy, and they don't have to let anybody in, even though there's a police officer, unless he has a warrant. So once you're in, once they get in, they write tickets for anything from the top of your house to the bottom, wherever they are. So, and that's their goal. It's not a compassionate thing, because when they came to me, I had the second time they came to me, or it could have been the third time they came to me, I had gone to court once, and I thought I was doing the right thing. I had gotten back a dismissal for one part, but not for the other. So I assumed that they were together. And the actual other part went to another address. It didn't come to my address. So I was doing what I thought was right, and as I explained that to them, they didn't care. They just wrote more tickets. I went and I got the documentation to say, like, this is what I have, and this is what I think I'm doing, and I think this is right. And they're like, no. So problematic.
That's kind of scary. This is the United States of America, and they can use like Gestapo type tactics to just break in or not break in, but coerce you to get your door open so they can go and shake you down for money. That's like mafia type stuff right there.
Yeah, it feels that way. It feels that way. So even when I spoke to the mayor in August of 2016, before he was elected, to say that, I didn't really want to debate him on the law. I knew that it's a process and we need to work to change the law. But he talked about how we had to do this because of these bad actors in these large buildings. But that's not what's happening. There are some bad actors and there are some large buildings that need to be addressed. But for the most part, and they know by my address, they can look up the property, that I own a 3-family house. So the claims that they're making are largely untrue. I'm not permanently taking off housing off the market, because in fact it was off the market. Well, at least one of the units was off the market anyway. So I'm not obligated to rent it out. It can be open. It can be, but they're telling me if I want to rent it, I have to rent it to someone for a longer period of time. Whereas if you buy a house and in the same property, you can take the units and make them one, so you can permanently destroy units of housing, which is happening around here. The developers are buying up units and turning them into single-family homes. So if you have a lot of money, you can make a single-family home, but if you need more money, you can't rent out for a short period of time.
So that's ironic to me, because one of the big concerns you hear people, they're taking houses off the market because they're turning them into Airbnbs, whereas they'll allow someone to go buy in a multi-unit and turn it into one, literally taking 2, 3, or 4 units off the market. But they're cool with that.
Yeah, they're fine with that. They're fine with it.
That's
so,
insane.
and the complaint is that this is aiding in gentrification, when in fact it's the reverse. So even the comptroller, he issued a report on how women make less than men, and black women in particular make less. So a lot of the people in Harlem, where I am, that I know who are doing this are women who make less. So the opportunity for them to make more in their house is to invite people into those other units that they have to make more to sort of bridge that gap. Unfortunately, they're not interested in that. They're not interested in trying to figure out what would be an anti-gentrification stance. They're not interested in that, and they have no plans on any of that. And it's disingenuous on the behalf of the hotel industry to say that they're interested in it at all. They're not. They're just interested in their own profit.
And how is Airbnb and VRBO, how are they helping y'all in this fight?
Good question.
So VRBO hasn't really helped us in this fight at this point. So the lawsuit, you probably know that VRBO and HomeAway are owned by Expedia. I think HomeAway was the named party in the lawsuit, so they joined with Airbnb. So Airbnb has been first on the forefront of getting hosts together and building community. So some of that community building has been around advocacy and helping us fight, fight locally in the city and the state. So we are working on developing our partnership even further this year so that we can be more coordinated. And at the same time, we really want to make sure that people know the voice of the host. I think what happens in this conversation is people get so angry with Airbnb. It makes no sense to me, but they get angry with Airbnb and they forget that Airbnb is just a platform we use. And as hosts, it's nice, but that we're just using it as a platform. We don't own stock in it. At least we don't now, right? They propose it to somebody, but we don't own stock in it. It's just a platform we use, and we use and many of us use other platforms, whatever is going to work best for us. So that's what our goal is to develop that partnership while still remaining independent.
A little series of questions here. I assume there's been some fighters in your family, and what's provoked you to take on such a fight like this?
I pretty much try to do what's right, but when someone came to my door, and really it was a bully tactic. So when the first officer came to my door, and he was with 3 other guys, and when he walked off the steps, he turned around and said to me, "We have other ways of getting in your house."
Damn.
What?
So I took that as a threat, and, I try not to give in to bullies. So, in my perspective, that this house is a blessing to me. God blessed me with it. I had the money. I figured all that stuff out, but it was definitely a blessing, and I felt like I have to stand up for my right to have my house and to do what I think is right. The other problem with it is I went to a hearing in January of 2017, and the Office of Special Enforcement never told us after that hearing, which was a rules hearing, how they were going to implement the rules. So if you wanted me to stop doing it, all you had to let me know was you would come after me if I did it. Then I could have figured out what to do that was right. So on the one hand, you're saying I shouldn't be doing this. On the other hand, I can't find out the information about what is happening until people start getting violations, until I start getting them, because I thought I was doing what was right. I thought it made sense for me because I live in my house and I own this house that I could rent out those units. It's not subject to rent stabilization or because it is 3 units. So I figured I could do what I wanted to my house, and they're saying, no, you can't. But they didn't even have the courtesy to say this is how we're implementing the law after we spent all day in a hearing to tell them what we thought. They never issued those rules. And when we met with the Executive Director of Office of Special Enforcement, he acknowledged that his website wasn't up to date. There's no place that if anybody's trying to do this, they can find out that information.
Wow. And so you said they gave you some tickets. I've heard some outrageous numbers. Like how much are they fining people for having Airbnbs?
Well, I think it varies, but I know it varies. But so at the end of the day, I paid them $1,000 plus, and I owe them probably $10,000 more. Jeez. So I know some other people who owe $10,000 and $15,000 and $30,000, and then some people. I do know someone else who told me, and I haven't seen it to verify it myself, but I think she owes almost $100,000. So what happens is once they come in, they treat you like you're a hotel. So if you don't have proper sprinkler system, proper fire extinguishers, if you have locks on interior doors, a whole host of things. They'll write a ticket for any of that. So it makes it very difficult for people. And there's no opportunity to cure this defect or even to say, I'm not doing it any longer, you shouldn't be finding me for it. So I think that's the problem, because I think in commercial buildings, if the building department comes and issues a violation, they have an opportunity to correct it. We don't.
Wow. That is crazy. And so you said they do want to put like a cap on how long you have to rent. Like here, like when they put caps, we usually switch over to like corporate renting to like traveling nurses. What's like the minimum stay that you got that the city wants for someone to stay to not consider it a short-term rental?
Yeah, so that would be 30 days. So 29 days is illegal, 30 days is legal.
Okay.
Wow.
Like everywhere else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I have an interesting, like, out of left field question. And I'm saying it because you mentioned keywords, like gentrification, and we spoke of housing, whatever, taking houses off the market. Where does the civil rights part of this? What are the people that push for civil rights? Where do they fall in this pro or against Airbnb fight going on?
So we have had some people that are in the more traditional civil rights fight, and they found the side of Airbnb and other platforms such as Airbnb. And they do that because it does provide us an opportunity to stay in our homes. So, what happens traditionally is when a neighborhood is on the upswing, right, the taxes go up, the other people move in and making things more expensive for the people who've been there for a long time. So this gives people who've been there for a long time an opportunity to make some additional income. There are a lot of people who have full townhouses that are multiple units that use any one of those single units only for family or friends, or they might have, just guests. So those people, so that's why people are in support of it, because they know that it provides people another opportunity to make additional income and actually stay in the neighborhood.
And I kind of asked that too because, like, I see articles all the time, and I saw the article about y'all fighting this, and y'all had this victory in New York, and it's funny. And the article was even pro. I mean, it was saying, hey, the Airbnb people had this little victory, whatever. But the picture they showed, it talked about the Airbnb fight, was a bunch of people of color, like us, and holding up signs against Airbnb. And that's the picture that the newspaper, or I say newspaper, online paper, decides to put forefront. So that's why I was asking that question. Whereas you say it's the opposite. People of the civil rights, movement are for Airbnb. But if you look at the news, you look at the footage they give us, from LA to New York, it's people of color. Looks like they're against Airbnb.
So if you think about it, what has happened is some of the hotel trade associations, some of those lobbies represent the lower levels of hotel workers, right? Because the trade organizations itself, they represent the management and the hotels. But so the lower levels of the trade organizations of the working class, and I say lower level as in lower receiving lower economics from the hotel. So the working class workers, these proud individuals who've been working for quite some time. In this fight, they're aligned with the overall hotel lobby, which represents the CEOs and the companies, and the CEOs making $11 million, right? So $11 million to someone making $15 an hour. So the hotel trade is aligned on other issues with other organizations that want to protect union workers. So they have positioned it such that union workers may feel that they're at threat. But the interesting thing that happens is when we're sitting in chambers with our fellow workers, and they listen to what people are saying, they do recognize that some of this, what we're talking about, makes sense. And some people who are in HSAA used to work in hotels. Some of them find themselves out of work and needing to rent their space to other people, right? So I think it is convenient for for newspapers to do that, but it's positioned that way from the hotel trade to say, let's put all these working class people together. So it makes it seem like, if they believe the argument that the hotel trade is telling them, that this is against them and against working class people, that they should be for stopping Airbnb, which is not true. So a couple of things we know, like if a black person or a person of color has a house and they're selling it next to a white person, the person of color makes less money. This is what we know. It's not something that Airbnb did. So when they talk about that black people make less money than white people in Airbnb units, I believe it, because that's what happens in the general market. But for other things, but it's not caused by Airbnb. So they want to manipulate the story to make it seem like that this is a problem. So we have other people, like some people that worked at the National Action Network, which, Al Sharpton's organization, and Danny Glover, people who are focused on economic development, who are on our side, but there are other organizations that are aligned with the hotel trade, and because they support them, they come out sometimes.
It's a tangled web, it seems, right?
It is a tangled web. And the people in the hotel trade themselves, they support any demonstration because they're paid to show up.
Oh, they're paid to show up.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's crazy.
You can tell they're paid to show up because if you're sitting inside the chamber and the clock hits whatever time, they get up and leave because they do not stay a minute past their getting paid time.
They clock out.
Yes.
Man,
that's crazy. So I mean, it's super brave of you to want to be at the forefront of this fight, especially in the most visible city, maybe on the planet. And I'm sure, but I mean, before you did this, were you afraid that there was going to be like a giant target on your back and they were going to go after you every turn that they could, the city?
No, so I think I was a little naive in that. So I did speak up a lot, and I do think my speaking up helped them land at my door, right? So, but after they came to my door, it's like, you already have my name, you already have my number. How can I hide from anything? So, yeah. So I was a little naive on how that worked. So, at this point, is be as exposed as possible, because if something happens, then we're going to know where it came from, right? So if you're coming after me again because I'm following the rules according to what they are, I disagree with them, but I'm following them according to what you say they are. I'm doing my part, but I can't walk around in fear of the city, and no one should. And the thing to me is that all these progressive legislators are not being progressive, and they're on the one hand spewing one thing one day and then against us the next. So we need to hold them accountable. And I, like so many other people, wasn't really that politically active before, but now that I am, it's like, okay, we have to fight. We can't let this happen.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So if New York today were say, hey, Airbnb's banned, the injunction gives up, and they ban Airbnbs, would you continue to do it? Like, what would your exit strategy be to transition into something else? Because that's what we always ask. Because I know they're trying to ban it here in Arlington, and I tell people I always wait till enforcement, but it sounds like enforcement's already at your door. What would be your exit strategy?
Well, so technically, I'm out of the short-term rental market. So technically, I'm doing 30-day plus. That's all I'm doing. But that law, to be clear, the law was only about sharing our data and sharing our information. Oh. The law right now in the city is that you can't have more than 2 people in a unit. Like if you're sharing with 2 people that are unrelated, you can only have 2 people. But you can't share in any unit without the host being present for more than 30 days, for less than 30 days. So it is illegal in the city for anybody to do it. People all over the place don't recognize it. So all those listings where people really aren't there, they're illegal because the city is going after those people. So I might go back to doing it longer term just because I want to, hunker down and fight it and not be bothered with this fight for now, and then go back to it at some other point, because the law is going to catch up. People are going to fight, and when people really recognize that what they're doing is legal because they don't know it's illegal. They thought there are so many people that own one and two family homes that think that what they're doing is legal, and it's not. So there are 860,000 five family and fewer homes in the city, and I think the number of those that are Airbnb listed is minuscule. So the actual impact is small, but the people who are doing it, they think they're legal. They think they're legal. So once they figure out they're not legal, then hopefully they'll all join and be more active in the fight to make it legal, and then we can have the law changed. And we're looking to spend some time with the state again this year to pass legislation that will make it legal and start a registration process. So I'm not opposed to giving the city my information, just like I registered and get my driver's license to register to do short-term rental. They just don't get all of my information. There's no reason that they need to know how much I'm making. It's not their business. I file my taxes. That's how they should get it, but they shouldn't get it on a month-by-month basis on how much we're getting from each person. It's not their business. They shouldn't know. There are a whole bunch of things that they shouldn't know. I have a right to privacy, and I think that they're overstepping their bounds. So we want to make sure that everybody knows what the city is after, and everybody knows what we want. We want fair, clear rules, and they're not clear. And people think that this victory is the end game. This victory is just temporary, and it doesn't change the law, and they're still going after people.
Wow.
That is crazy. That's cool that you're at the forefront leading the fight. And we really appreciate it all the way over here from Arlington. And before we dive further into the fight part, we forgot to we'll ask you a little bit. How did you start Airbnb yourself? How did you choose to do home share as opposed to offsite? And how was that going? And how was it how did it change your life?
Yeah, so I was actually at a conference, and one of my tenants texted me and said that he was breaking his lease. So I was debating what to do because I'm working on my own venture to improve the health of people of color. So, which is, my personal experiment. It's not easy to do. Clearly, we still have these problems, but it was a way for me to make additional income and then cover my bills as I worked on my own business model. So it went well, and it was, after I listed, and I left like a month later, I got my first guest, and then after that, it was going very well. And then I ended up listing the other unit also, which is where I was living. And I just moved downstairs into the unit with my sister. So it was going well. It was helping me pay my bills and keep on top of things, and to do the programming that I wanted to do. So that's why I started doing it. And then, it changed when I had to stop doing it. So it definitely put a strain on me.
Wow. Everyone always has an interesting story of how they got started. Wow. So when was the HSAA created?
So it is officially a year old. We had our first meeting last January. I think it was January 8th. But we had our first meeting last January. There were probably about 12 of us. So the group the core group is a little smaller at the moment. Some people have, moved in and out of doing home sharing and spending their time doing other things, but a pretty committed group of people. So we meet pretty regularly, and this year we're going to change up some of the things we're doing because we really need to advance our issues some more. So that's why we're trying to work on our partnership with Airbnb, and then we'll be reaching out to the other platforms as well to join in the fight with us.
And another thing, has Airbnb done anything for your group specifically to fight the bans, or?
Well, yeah. So we work pretty well with Airbnb, especially the people in the New York office, and we sometimes they'll host meetings for us in their space, and we work with them. I've been on television with them.
Wow.
So we work well with them. They're a good group of people, and they're very committed to the fight. So we've gone to Albany together, and they've had some other presentations. So we're still planning on fighting together this year. So they're a company and we're hosts. So all of our issues aren't 100% aligned, but we are very much aligned.
Wow. Okay.
Are you you ever thought about putting your resume in with Airbnb? Maybe they can hook you up with a good gig.
I hadn't really thought about it, maybe, But I think it's their advantage if I run as executive director, the HSAA, then I can be the voice of the host. Because there's this thing that happens when legislators start talking to people who actually work for Airbnb, the vitriol, the hatred, the shade that they give is ridiculous. And I think it is at the point where it's difficult for productive things to happen when it is Airbnb and legislators. When we have constituents, I think they haven't paid as much attention to us as much, but they recognize that we can impact whether or not they keep their jobs. So we're hoping to make more of an impact on them, to let them know that we're really disappointed that not one of them, not one single person on the city. I get it. And that we need to come to a different way. So the city likes to talk about, well, we need to meet with Airbnb to come up with a law. And I think that's ridiculous. You don't. You need to come up with something that's fair and just and that actually helps the community, and then Airbnb can implement it. And I think that we can help in.
Sorry, you're breaking up.
Oh, sorry about that. I said when they get in the room with Airbnb, they're just too angry to do anything productive.
Yeah, just the shouting matches go on, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And,
Airbnb is not 100% innocent here either, but they need to do a better job together. So we can mitigate that by working with us.
Right. They need to take a more active role, I think. Because, you're New York City, capital of the world kind of thing. And so Airbnb has a lot of interest in the bigger cities. So cities like us, like over here in Arlington, they're really not reaching out, really not trying to offer us much help. And, in our struggle against them banning it, altogether. And we're... The thing is, Micah asked you earlier about if you're differentiating yourselves from the remote hosts, but you said no, you want it to be all packaged together, and that's a different angle to take, because a lot of cities allow it if you're home sharing, if you open up your home to Airbnb out of the rooms. Whereas what they don't want is people to just snap up houses just to turn them into Airbnbs, turning whole, this is what they're saying, is turning whole city streets into just nothing but like a long line of hotels, little mini hotels. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, the cities haven't messed with home shares as much as they have with the remote hosting. But you said from the get-go, y'all didn't want to differentiate from the remote hosts, and has there been talks to okay, let's just go our own way, let them fight their fight, we'll fight our fight?
Well, so we're not making a judgment about people. We don't ask people to say X, Y, or Z. So we're not making that judgment about them. So we do support people in particular who are living in their own units. So in the city, though, because while we have over 3 million units of housing, and some of those are in large buildings and some of those in rent-stabilized buildings. So we permit anybody to be a member. We're not telling them that they can't be a member, so they can come get the information. And we we want fair rules, and at the end of the day, the rules probably will have a preference for people who are living in those spaces. And some of those rules in larger buildings, people probably won't be able to do it at all. And then in other places where they have rules, where they have like co-op rules or other rules, those things will be regulated. But according to the city, everything is illegal. So we weren't making that judgment on who could come to a meeting and who could learn what's happening. Because people don't even know some of them don't even know what they're doing is illegal. So it was really just, if there are people, get people together and let's hash it out so we can figure out what the rules are. When we started, we didn't really know, and we didn't know how they were going to be enforced. We didn't know what they were going after. So that's the judgment we're making. At the end of the day, we definitely want a proper registration, and our goal is to have that in units that are not rent stabilized, which would mean 5 units and less, and 5 units and fewer. On that property.
Yeah, you're cutting out a little bit.
Not even at the debate. Everything is illegal. It's all illegal. Unless you are living in a unit and the people are in the unit with you, it's illegal. It doesn't matter if you live there or not. And they're not saying, oh, if you live there, we appreciate you. No, they can't stand any of it. So we need to say, this is what's happening. So people know, if you don't live here or if you live here, you are going to get fined.
Right.
Wow.
And so, going back to the whole, we'll touch on the home sharing a little bit. I mean, do you see it as a positive force in the neighborhoods, where you're at? And do you see, has it changed your life for the better? Not just the monetarily, but meeting people from all over the world kind of thing, and just like showing them the real, the real New York.
Yeah, so I think it has been good. I've helped people who, they're from here, so people are from all over the world, but from New York at the same time. They come back because their family is here, but their family doesn't have enough space for them and their families. So I think that's been a great opportunity. It's good. Other people come, students come, and then it helps the community, our local restaurants and other things get more support. So that's good because it helps my community on a longer term basis that, these things are viable because other people come to them. So I think that's helpful too. My neighborhood is changing, and it's not all what people would expect, but mostly good. So I think it has been helpful. Some hosts spend a lot of time with their guests. I think for me, because I have separate units, people, they get to do what they want to do and act as if they are a part of the community. So I think that's great too. I'll provide information and let people know what things to go to, but they can feel like they're a part of the neighborhood.
So you personally don't see any negative impacts from Airbnb?
I don't really see any negative impacts from Airbnb in my area. I think, we can pretend that everything is always positive. I think there are some people that abuse the system because people abuse all sorts of systems. Mm-hmm. People abuse Medicaid and Medicare. I don't think we should get rid of it because people abuse it. I think we have to get rid of the abusers. Yeah. So I haven't seen that in my neighborhood. I see more traffic of people taking tours, but I don't think that's because they're doing Airbnb. I think it's just because my neighborhood is relatively popular. I do see more suitcases on the street, but you can see me almost every weekend taking a suitcase because if I go to Long Island, which I do a lot, I'd have a bag, so I haven't seen any real negative impact to it.
Yeah, see, because here in Arlington, that's what they're complaining about. They're saying, hey, there's party houses. Our fight's a little bit different than yours. Ours isn't really backed by the hotel industry. It's more or less backed by complaining neighbors. So when people started getting complaints, they started telling the city. Then the city brought it to the forefront. So it sounds like our fight may be a little bit different, but I don't know if it seems like y'all probably have a tougher way to go because you're dealing directly with the city council.
Yeah, and people have complained about party houses and that.
Uh-huh.
So I think a lot of stuff that we do is to make sure, what I do is to make sure people know you can't have a party here. And I think that's the thing what happens with remote hosts, right? So if people rent a place and they know that you're not going to be around, then they can abuse the rules and just, ask for forgiveness as opposed to for permission. But we do have stuff that some people, those are issues. But for me, I really had people to have parties here because they know they can't. Every once in a while, people get a little loud. But since I'm usually around, I can let them know, like, no, you got to be quiet now. You got to turn it down.
Yeah.
But I also do find that there's some people, whether or not they're experiencing a party or whatever, if they don't like the concept of Airbnb and it makes sense to them, then they can make a complaint and it not be valid. So I think there's weighing that too. There's some people who just like to complain about this. I remember going to an event and a woman she was just appalled that there would be more people having suitcases coming down the street. I was like, that's crazy, but okay. So there's some of that too.
Was she born in the 50s? No, I'm just kidding.
Maybe even, but yeah, at least the 50s.
Yeah, we noticed here, like, I do feel for the people that complain here because they are part of the older community. They're more, 60, 70 years old, and they just want to live in their neighborhood. And I do feel like some of the hosts are to blame because they do go into those neighborhoods, start up these Airbnbs in big 4 or 5 bedroom homes, and of course people are throwing parties if you're advertising it for 25 people, So, like you said, you got to get rid of the abusers and don't punish everybody.
Yeah, we just need to figure out a better way of doing that.
Yeah.
I guess here's my take on the thing. Because I've been to New York 3 times, New York City. And I was lucky enough to stay with a friend, a couple times. And then the 3rd time I rented a hotel. And hold on real quick. Send to voicemail. Okay. I got an incoming call. All right. And so I was lucky enough to visit, like I said, stay with a friend the first couple times, and it was in Jersey City. And so, outside of the city. And the 3rd time we stayed in Flushing, which is outside the city also. I had to take a train into the city. And so the reason I stayed so far away is because it was the hotels at the time were so damn expensive. And it's like, a lot of us, we can't afford, back, especially when you're younger, you can't afford, $200 or $300 a night for a hotel. And so we can't stay in the city. We got to stay outside in the outskirts, go into the city, do the touristy things maybe, and get our asses back to where where we're staying outside the city before it's too late. And I'm like, well, I see it as a big plus, a huge plus that we can stay at an Airbnb, share with some friends, and stay in the city, spend our money in the city at the local spots, not just the tourist spots that we have time to see. Mm-hmm. And then we don't have to hop a train and go all the way across town and go back to outside of the city or go to Jersey, and we're spending our money in Jersey instead of New York City. And so it's just I think it's a great thing. It's a blessing. And for, New York City especially, or bigger cities, because we get to actually experience it like we're locals.
Yeah. And because, first of all, Jersey City is Airbnb friendly. They embrace Airbnb, so it's easier even if you were staying in Jersey City to get an Airbnb. But that is so true. So people would say, I live in Harlem, so people would bring their family, because if you have 4 people, you have a family, and then you want to cook and you want to do all that in your space because you can save money that way, and then explore the rest of the city. That's easy to do. So it would be very expensive and too pricey for a lot of people to come and stay for the week that they stay usually with me in the past to afford it. If they had to pay the high price, had to pay for food, had to pay for everything. So yeah, it does make it affordable.
Yeah, and I guess in other words, the city, by being, obviously backed by the hotel lobby, the council, are saying, no, we like the status quo. We like it for only rich people can come visit New York City and stay in New York City and stay in Times Square and spend $500 a night at a hotel. We like how it is right now. Don't change.
Yeah. They made record profits last year. And so there, a couple of the claims that they're talking about impacts them. They made record profits last year, and the actual thing they talked about how it makes rent prices go up. Actual real rent prices went down. So what's happening now is there are lots of luxury buildings being built, and the luxury apartment owners will keep the price the same but give people a discount so that it appears as if the rents have gone up, but that's not what's happened. Actual real rents have gone down. So
Wow.
Airbnb hasn't had that impact. So there are about 3,300,000 units in the city, and there are 55,000 Airbnbs. So, and 15% of them, they say, are illegal. It works out to be like either between 0.8% and 0.18% that were impacting the housing market, which is, no matter how you're figuring it out, it is a rounding error at best. So it's not really having that impact that the hotel lobby or the city council would like to say.
Wow. This is a lot of great information you're giving us here, Joy. And we really appreciate it that you're at the forefront of the fight. And if you could tell our listeners out there, bans are pretty much going on everywhere across the country, not just New York, not just LA, everywhere across the country. These little, cities are throwing up these bans. And if you could tell our listeners, what should they do to go about, fighting this, to go about, getting, going up against the city council if they need to?
Yeah. So really what they should start to do is reach out to their legislators, join with other people who have the same interests as they do, and then reach out to their legislators. If they need help from us, they can find us on our Facebook page, which is the Home Sharing Association of America, the HSAA 1.
Okay, we'll put that in the show notes.
Yeah, and then, because what it requires is people to become involved locally. And what happens is homeowners, people who share homes, aren't naturally in groups already, whereas the hotel lobby is very organized around other issues. This is just another thing for them to think on. So definitely start reaching out, even if you call people and let them know, call your legislators, and let them know how you feel, and organize groups of people, because the constituents matter more than the lobby when the constituents get the city council to not be elected the next time. So if there are enough of you and your vote and all of your votes count, change can happen.
Yeah. I guess a big thing I see is people are afraid to go up there and fight because they don't want to get a target on their back. They're like, I'm doing it on the down low. If they start passing some rules, maybe they won't find me. But yeah, I guess they're pushing for legislation to go out and find you. So might as well fight while you can, right?
Right. And then the other thing, because I feel like it's a slippery slope. If you let them do this, they're going to do something else, because they're going to find something else to do. If they're going to take away your right to do what you want in your house, then they'll move the line. So we have to hold them to what's right, because it'll be something else. You think that's not going to impact you. And even if you're not home sharing, but you've heard about this, you really need to make sure your legislators know what you feel. They need to know that you think you should be able to do this in your house. Now, you shouldn't be able to have raucous parties that disturb the neighborhood, but if you want people in your house, it shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah, it reminds me of a story I just read about New York City about, it was the mayor wanting to go after bad landlords and confiscating their properties. I'm like, whoa, confiscating property. That's some communist stuff right there. I don't know.
Yeah, so recognize this mayor thinks he's progressive. I don't understand what that is. He and everything is punitive. How about let's figure out how we can rehabilitate bad landlords? So what he's saying is he is just going to seize property and take it over, as opposed to figuring out what's the problem with these people, and we're going to start from there. We're going to see property. It's ridiculous.
That's some scary stuff. So yeah, I guess, tell our listeners, Micah, they should get out there and fight and
yeah, speaking of fighting, so we just got a message saying the Arlington PD is knocking on people's doors similar to what they're doing in New York. And they're telling people that they were given a list of names and homes that were short term. So I guess they're trying to take those same tactics here in Arlington. So.
Yeah, so let the people know that you still live in the United States of America. If people come to your door, they need to have a warrant.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid that they're the police. They need to have a warrant. The best way, though, is not to engage with them. If you can avoid opening the door for them and them not recognizing that you're there, that's the best strategy. Because one of the things that happens when you open the door, that you have to be especially confident in the way that you deal with them, because you are annoying human beings, right? They're just humans who think they have the authority, and they will tell you anything. We watch enough Law and Order to know that police officers will say all sorts of things, right? They will tell you anything to get inside. They are not your friends. They're not your friends. They are doing their job, and their job is to write as many tickets as possible, to make as much money as possible. This, for New York City, is a revenue-generating operation. This is not about. Don't think this is about making the city better in that respect, because they could have issues. They could issue things, and they could send you notices. They don't have to come. They can say, "We heard that you were wrong. Here is a warning. You fix it, and we'll be back." That's not what they're doing.
The shakedown.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Well, thank you very, very much, Joy, for hopping on and really opening our eyes, and thank you for being in the forefront again of the fight. And we really appreciate that. Airbnb hosts everywhere appreciate that. Yeah. And any parting words you want to say to our listeners, and any advice you got for them?
Yeah. Well, so first of all, thank you so much for having me. I'd love to share the story to let people know what's happening. But the one thing I do think that people should do is really try to stay informed as to what's happening, and to try to put pressure on people. It is clear that the squeaky wheel gets the oil, so we need to be less fearful, because if we cower to bully, they just keep bullying, and that is what's happening. The people are bullying. So don't let them bully you.
Awesome advice.
Stand
awesome.
Up.
Thank you so much, Joy. Yeah. And we will share all your links on the show. You can get in contact with her directly if you'd like. I mean, if that's cool. And then you could, check out the fight at HSAA. We'll put the link on there for that.
Yeah, and we'll be sharing it, letting people know about your guys' Facebook page as well, the HSAA.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for hopping on.
And thank you guys for telling the story often. We love to hear people sharing the story about home sharing.
Oh, yeah. Yes. We love home sharing. We're all in this together.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Take care.
Thank you.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. That was Joy from the HSAA, the Home Sharing
Association of America.
There you go.
And we just
eye-opening stuff right there, man.
Yeah, that was eye-opening, and it was funny as soon as she said that, we got that message saying that Arlington PD is knocking on people's doors, asking them if they have a short-term rental.
Wow, man, in America.
And I literally, and Mahogany asked the lady, "Hey, did you provide your contact information?" And she said yes. And
at the meeting at the city hall.
That's why I was like, yeah, I'm good on that. Data collection is easy, man.
Damn. Just walked right into it.
Yep.
So, it's getting real out there, y'all. Yep. It's getting really real. And so I guess, tune into, we're a small part of this. Tune into us, if you want to try to stay abreast of the situation. And we'll do our best to get y'all the information, you need. Yeah. And we appreciate y'all listening to our show, and we hope to keep pumping out some good stuff for you. And yeah, man, get involved, fight the fight. Don't let them just roll us over like they've been trying to do. You know, it's your house, it's your property. You know, fight for it. I mean, if we don't have property in the United States, what the hell do we have?
Yeah, and it's funny. She brought up the Fourth Amendment. That was something I never thought about. You know, like them coming to your door. They can't come into your house. You have rights. So that was a really good point.
Yeah. Not that I'm going to open the door when the police knock anyways, Micah.
Nah, hide the dope. No, I'm playing. No, I'm playing, man. But, yeah, man, keep living, keep letting, keep thriving. This is episode
78.
78, man. We're 22 away from 100, man.
We're right there, bro.
Man. We'll probably put something special together for that episode.
Cool.
But yeah, man. Thank y'all for listening. Check out our merchandise at liveletthrive.com. Check out our YouTube page. We got all the videos coming soon. Check us out on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Instagram, definitely check out the Live Let Thrive page and the Share Bed and Breakfast page. We're always dropping some good game on there, man.
We'll put all the links on there for you. You can find us. We're out there.
Yeah.
Live
Google
Let
us.
Thrive.
Peace.
Out.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of Live, Let, Thrive. Be sure to tune in next week for all the latest in the world of Airbnb and all that entails. Bye-bye.